Last year, articles started emerging about the video gaming industry. How these 30 and 40 somethings landed their dream jobs making video games. Except those jobs ended up being hellscapes of overtime, stress drinking, anxiety, and human resources nightmares. So we started looking into dream jobs across the spectrum. Writers, artists, designers, creatives, Disney workers. After all, if you do something you love, you'll never work a day in your life, right? Then Joe started talking to his girlfriend, who got to work at her dream job as a cast member at Disney World. So you had an image in your head about what this was going to be like.
So my image was I was going to be going to the parks every day that I had off. I was going to be making tons of friends. I would be friends with all the people that were friends with all of the characters, or all of this. Like it seemed like it was just going to be months upon months. Actually, I planned on staying there for a full year, and I did not make it a full year. But months and months of just a dream of hazy, just happiness and dopamine and everything that you could think of while you're at Disney, but just every day.
See, and I think that's realistic. I would think that I was going to be in this family. I was going to see other people. I was going to build friendships with people who were like-minded, who love the same movies. It was going to be great. What was the cold reality of it?
The cold reality, it even set in 2 weeks into my program. My roommates were all people who just liked drama. Where I worked was nowhere near a park. I worked at a resort. And then just everybody was catty. Like there was so much drama between everything. The people who would work there forever knew that you would be gone soon, so it didn't really matter if they got to know you or anything.
So they acted like they were better than you because they had been there so long and you're just a new...
Oh, yeah. You're just going to be here for a couple of weeks, couple of months. It doesn't matter if you actually know your job. Just not really standing there to do something, but just... They didn't expect much of you.
Did they treat you like you're lucky to work here? There's literally 20,000 people that could replace you right now.
Oh yeah. There were a couple people who did, but also the people who had worked there for so long, they weren't the ones that were like, you're lucky to be here. No, it was actually the newer people. The ones who just became coordinators, the one who were in the Disney College program and then were bumped up. Like they know you are lucky.
We're better than you.
Exactly. I think there were 1 or 2 coordinators that were like, no, you are lucky to be here and I can treat you the way that I want to.
Now with 20,000 applicants for these jobs, it must pay great. I mean, I know how much it costs to go to Disneyland. I've taken my family there.
Oh yeah,
and it costs $5,000.
Yeah.
So they must pay the employees a lot.
No, no, not at all. When I went there, which was in 2018, I made $10.50 an hour, which was not very much over minimum wage for Florida, and they paid all 4,000 of us about that. And you were pretty lucky if you got the extra 50 cents if you worked at Bippity Boppity Boutique. Basically, if you worked at Magic Kingdom, you got 50 cents extra.
You said at the beginning that it was mostly other college-age kids doing this.
Yes.
Did you ever get a sense that this was their dream too?
Oh, God, every single one of them.
Would you guys have worked for free?
Some of them, yeah.
Okay.
There were some things that Disney would give us. If we got free housing, which we didn't, we paid for our housing, which is a whole nother thing.
You guys paid for your own housing?
Yeah.
You're listening to The Reengineered You. This is a podcast about self-empowerment and all the myths, lies, and misconceptions we tell ourselves. Then we use science and history to bust those myths and re-engineer a better you. I'm your host, Todd Laments, the extrovert.
And I'm the writer, researcher, and introvert, Joe Anthony, whose job it is to dig through the outer layer of no-daw on the internet.
Do something you love, and you'll never work a day in your life. That quote has been attributed to Mark Twain, Confucius, and Mark Antony. None of them worked in a gig economy. According to Indeed, the average salary for a video game designer is $22,000 per year, about the same as a restaurant server in any busy urban area. The average salary for actors is the same, about $22,000 a year, the same as a musician. Artists and dog walkers make a little more, closer to $36,000 per year. And writers, they make about $36K as well. Sorry, Joe. So our myths today are all about our dream jobs. Starting with myth 1. How easy is it to land your dream job? Actually, shockingly easy. Lots of companies will put you behind a desk to live your fantasy. But there's a catch. Myth 2. So let's say you follow Confucius' wisdom. You've picked living your dream over making money. Are you more mentally healthy because of it? Myth 3. Most dream companies know they're a desirable place to work at. They'll make you outwork all the other grunts to prove you can join the inner circle. So is it worth it in the long run?
Going there, I always thought that I'm going to stay here forever and I'm going to find the love of my life and we're going to be Disney nerds and we're going to just love this forever. And that did not happen. The reason why I kind of lost some of my love for working at Disney was because of how hard I worked for such little emotional pay. I enjoyed my time there and I would do it over again if I had to, but I do not plan on ever working for Disney again. Not because it's not a good company. When you're a full-time person, they treat you like family, but they don't have that many of those.
So everybody has an idea of what their dream job is when they're a kid. What was your dream job?
I'm going to give you what my dream job was as a young man. I heard a story from a friend, and he'd worked on a cruise ship. And he had told me about how much fun it was, how they would travel and how they would date the dancers from the shows and the servers. And they just had this. And as a young 20-something, I thought, what a great life. I get to sail around the world, I guess, yacht around the world, drink booze. I'm like, this is great.
Go on a cruise all the time, be around attractive people.
Yeah.
That'd be amazing.
Kind of like Baywatch, but cooler, I guess.
Right. You ever work on a cruise line?
I never did it.
Okay.
And I'm probably going to always regret that. And as a happily married man, I think if I went away for 6 months on a cruise ship, I'd come home, there'd be a new husband here.
Okay, now I'm
what about
absolutely... Well, I want to be an artist. Oh, by the way, you just destroyed all of our myths today. The cruise ship annual salary is approximately $48,000 a year. So that is our highest salary yet for dream jobs.
And that one is you don't have bills because you're on a boat.
Right.
I don't know if that's figured in, but
well, your bill is when you're parked in a dock and everyone's got COVID or the toilets stop working or my dream job used to be like a comic artist. I went to school for graphic design. Before that I was I did a lot of life art. So my background was in art because my dream job was drawing. And then I found out how grueling and difficult the job of a penciler is, the artists.
You think of that of working at Disney and getting to see your movies, and it's great, right?
Yeah, you'd think that'd be amazing. Think about being like a cartoonist. That's got to be awesome. Like you're drawing the characters you love. But I think after, thousands of the exact same character drawing with little tiny movements in the arms. So what would you define as a dream job? Let's start with that.
You always get those people, men and women, to grow up with who are destined to be firefighters. That's what their parents did. They just think it's the most important thing. I think it's what you get your value in, how you see yourself. And, if you identify as a police officer or a coach or a teacher, I think teachers are that way too, right? Certain people are born to do certain things. The rest of us just try to figure it out.
Yeah.
I was jealous of those people with that compass that they could follow.
Especially if it sounds like something practical. When somebody tells me I was born to do this thing and it's something, that makes money and is... Does anyone ever say I was born to be a dentist?
Right, but they're so proud of what they do. Whether they're a garbage man or a dentist or whatever. They're born to be a nurse. They think this is the best thing helping people, and they would never do anything else.
I know that whenever I applied, I was like, okay, what am I okay with doing as a job? And at some point in time, I was just like, you know what? I don't care as long as I'm working for Disney. I put 4 different jobs, and I was one of the first to get accepted, which still now is mind-blowing because of how many people apply. I was one of the first groups to get accepted for the 2018 term.
So you're saying, let's say there's 4,000 job openings. How many people would apply for those 4,000 job openings?
I want to say about like 20,000.
Holy shit, like a big city.
Yeah, it's ridiculous because it's college students, and of course what college students think is, it's going to be working for Disney. It's just going to be a vacation. Of course it's not.
Cleaning toilets, picking up garbage. Just redheaded kid puked and you got to go throw the sawdust.
Exactly. Or even worse, you have to basically summer camp with kids, but the kids would always change, and they would call it like kids activities.
So I imagine the people you're interviewing with are just Disney crazy, just brainwashed, drank all the Kool-Aid, right? Are they sleep in Disney sheets and pajamas, even though they're 40?
Oh, yeah. Oh, God, yes. So the HR people that I would see, we actually got to go into the HR department that are specifically for college programs because we had to do like all of the onboarding stuff. So we did that at Disney's HR building, basically, and everyone's desks or everyone's cubicle was filled to the brim with their favorite Disney things. So everyone has drank the Kool-Aid. They have dove really deep into this because it is such a dream job. And even HR there is absolutely insane. And that used to be my dream job. And there's no way in hell that I would do that now.
I heard there's like 1,000 HR professionals work there.
Oh, yeah.
But to keep that thing, especially when it's seasonal work and you're stocking young people, it sounds like a cattle run if you're hiring 4,000 people at a time.
Yeah.
So I want to run some statistics by you for this show, by the way. Like I want to shock you into, giving up your dream, which is a weird thing to want to do. Now,
I think you're trying to do it to save me some pain and suffering.
I think so. Thank you for saying that. It gives me more credit than is due, and also it makes this episode sound a lot less harsh. Because there is a way to work your dream job in a practical way, in a way that is sustainable and makes money and doesn't crush your soul. And the way to do that, it seems, is to look ahead, look forward, and look at the businesses you're getting into. Because whatever you think your dream job is, what the practical, there are so many companies ready to take your dream and turn it into a chain around your ankle attached to a desk and a very, very small paycheck. Now, millennials seem extremely vulnerable to this. The idea that, you would go to work your dream job. I would go out and try to be an artist, and then I would end up chained to a drafting table with a pencil in my hand. Or, we would go out to become, programmers for a popular video game, and we end up in a very hot, room with 80 desks with computers all chugging on, very bland, boring code.
I see that too when I see these cultures. They try to imitate Google and say, "Oh, look, we have bean bags and foosball tables,
open offices." Yeah,
these people have work to do, Joe. They don't have time to play foosball, man.
Right.
They don't tell you that. They say, "Oh, we have beers on Friday." Yeah, but you're like 2 weeks behind at work. You're blind in one eye from the stress.
Right.
Let me go lay around in a beanbag.
Right. Everyone's got a Nerf gun above their cubicle, but guess what? They don't have medical coverage. So the reason I pick on millennials are 22% of the population. They are currently the largest pie in that graph of the population. Like, it's millennials, and then boomers are like 20% or 21%. And then everything kind of gets smaller from the population groups from there. But they uniquely hold 5% of the wealth. So the largest group has only 5% of the wealth.
They're doing all the work.
They are, kind of. They're in the prime of their work years. Millennials are currently 20-something to, early 40s. So they are actually sort of like the main labor force right now. And they have a tiny piece of the wealth, which means if you tell a millennial, I've got your dream job sitting here, come do it, they will jump at it. Like, they're more susceptible to that game. Boomers statistically have ignored the siren call of dream job and fulfillment. And we will talk about that in a little bit. But I just found it very interesting that as a generation, millennials followed the Confucius advice.
So originally my first degree that I went to college for was ranch management. I realized that I was going to have to look at a cow, and then the next week it would be dead on a spike, and I'd have to figure out how much it weighed by sight. And I said no. So what I then went into was, okay, well, what is something that makes me happy? And my first thought, of course, is Disney. And then if I went and worked at Disney, they're all about hospitality. So I could work there and basically fit into anywhere.
Okay. So, like, it's a less of a long shot than if you had gone into something creative. Like, if you're an illustrator, you may never touch Disney soil. If you're a writer, like me, I will never write something that Disney would accept unless you have
to have an in, basically.
Right. So hospitality means you could find a keyhole somewhere at Disney
where I would fit in almost perfectly. And I thought that.
I want to talk about this workplace happiness report that came out in 2019. We're going to link off to this. It's by udemy.com, and it's a research paper where they polled 1,000 full-time workers, and 37% rated good work-life balance as being the most important in their life, as far as like keeping things going. So, less
should that
than
be
half.
100%? I know I'm older now, but I guess when you're younger, you want to make the big bucks. You want the Range Rovers and the helicopters, right?
Yeah.
You kind of pride yourself, I think, at a certain time of life at, I'm going to grind and get rich.
I think you're right. I'm not looking at the statistics for that exact thing. How many of that percent, how many percent of the 37% who rated good work-life balance as being the most important? I'm betting it was older people who answered that, like people who had put in some time. To that point, millennials, oh my God, 84% of millennials said they are already in their dream job.
Are they delusional or are they?
That's what I'm wondering. Okay.
They don't know what they don't know.
It's like, well, I feel
How
like
could they be?
yelling at them, are you working your dream? Are you sure? Think real hard about that. That cannot, with how many miserable, poor millennials there are out there. That's it. We said earlier, millennials hold 5% of the total wealth, yet 84% of them think they are already in their dream job. So maybe they just mean they've got their foot on the ladder at the bottom of their dream job. They are
very bottom.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's concerning. That's concerning that hopefully they have hope that things are going to get better. And I think when you're young, you're naive enough to think if I work really hard and I'm going to get ahead.
Yeah. I mean,
it's very, very foolish. Hard work will get you nowhere in this world.
When those articles started coming out about video game businesses that were burning through their workforce doing what's called crunch. It's crunch time because they have a AAA game about to come out, and they burn out their programmers like they are just, like kindling. That's got to be the millennials who think they're already in their dream job. The 84% who say they're already in their dream, it must be the ones getting burnt out at these, crazy companies.
Well, it's funny because years ago, this young man, I lived up in Seattle, and he's 19 years old, and he had two options. One was to go to the Marine Corps and go over to war. He'd go over to Iraq, or go work at Microsoft. And he told me that the Army has a better future than Microsoft being a video game player. And I thought he'd lost his fucking mind. I'm like, are you crazy? I tried to talk him out of it. And now, years later, he was right.
Yeah.
He would have been burned out quicker working at Microsoft playing video games than he would in the Marine Corps in a combat situation.
It is so crazy you say that, but I'm good friends with a guy who was in the Army, and he went from the Army to working at Intel, and he worked as one of their outside contractors for years before they finally let him have a full-time job. And if you're an outside contractor, you don't have benefits, you barely make money, you eventually can work your way into a real job. But that's what it feels like these millennials are getting suckered into.
And the regular employees at Intel make you do all the work because you're a contractor. They remind you that every day, and they don't let you use the bathroom or the lunchroom.
Right. Oh, you think, that's not a joke. They carry different color lanyards. So, they have almost like a classist hierarchy.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, you're a leper. You're only a contractor.
Oh, you have the green lanyard. The blue ones are allowed in this cafeteria, and the blue ones can use the workout room, and you guys can go use the water fountain outside.
Shoo.
Right. So, only 54% of baby boomers say they're in their dream job. I assume all the other ones are working in something practical like real estate.
Yeah, I think that's about right. But there's a whole bunch of them, say, well, I should went to work for the city, or I should have got a different kind of job. You get older, you start to look back and say, if I woulda.
Right. I do want to note that this podcast is not the millennial show. It's just that a lot of data sets and businesses fixate on the millennials as a generation.
Yeah, they're interesting.
Yeah. It's because they are such a large part of the population, and they are going through such an enormous economic slump. So they get singled out as data very often.
Yeah, every comic, every public speaker, they would run out of material if they didn't have.
If they couldn't beat up on millennials.
Yeah, it'd be like the pastors without the Bible. What are they going to talk about?
Right. So, hypothetically, if you picked your, let's say, updated dream job, you pick something that pays really well, gives you the benefits you would need to live, and let you do, say it taught you a skill at any level that you wanted. So, if you pick, professional speaker, you will be tutored by literal millionaire speakers who have figured out, the math equation to do it. Would you live in a barracks and would you be willing to pay for basically barrack style living to do that job and do it for free basically?
Oh, this is like the deal the deal with the devil, right?
Yeah.
You get to do what you want, but you have to pay. I would do it.
Okay.
I would say, you know what, life is short and very few people get to really live their dream. I think of that 54% adults who think they're living, that's even more concerning than the millennials who are thinking that.
Right.
They're old enough to know better that there's more opportunities. I think we always have a thing of, if I would have gotten that degree, taken that class, gotten that certification, where would my life be now?
Okay.
What about you? Your dream job? Would you trade it for a Spartan life? I think you already have, actually.
I kind of already have. I've worked graveyard and worked a very modest life so that I can learn to do, to write better, to do the thing I love, do it better. But I'm not really a good example of that because nobody has guaranteed money or anything or success. I'm not, necessarily learning from my idols. But that's what a good dream job does, is it promises you're going to learn from the best, and you will walk away with the skills to become at the top of this, league. New York Times just had a great article about, the video game layoffs, how they will go through these big, massive, cuts where they will finish a game, or even worse, a game company will go bust. And they will just mass get rid of their workforce. Even successful games. I remember watching it was a World of Warcraft programmer, and he was doing this sort of like almost career suicide video where he's playing World of Warcraft, talking about World of Warcraft, and how it used to be that when you programmed for them and worked on the games, you did it with the team that made the game. Like you did it with the original core team. And he was complaining about these companies and how nobody who started the game and loved the game and wrote it because they wanted to be in that world, none of them are in the business anymore. They're not just working on that game. They're out of the business.
And you would think it would be like a musician winning an award that would set their career into another orbit.
That's exactly what I'm saying. Most of these careers where you get your dream job, you would expect once you've done it, once you've reached that tier and you've lived that barracks lifestyle and you've learned from the best, you would expect that, you now have the experience, and like a pro athlete who has made a real big name for themselves, you'd think they'd be able to step down and coach or open their own business or get a job elsewhere.
For 5 times as much.
Right.
Instead, they're scarred by their treatment and they feel used and abused.
Right. They're burned through.
Yeah, they lost their job, lost a bunch of relationships over work stress, and now they're just, I'll never work for that company again.
Right, like this, the New York Times article says, they're talking about unionizing. Like that's a new idea. Like they've never heard of that before. Have you ever seen the show Succession?
No.
Okay. So, one of our myths, we wanted to ask the question, is it more healthy for you mentally to work your dream job and have lived that dream, even if it costs a lot, if it personally costs you, it doesn't bring you money. It brings you the experience, but you're not at the top of the career pyramid yet. Is it better to have gotten your dream job for your own mental health to have done that? Or is it better for your mental health to have gone into something safe and get the money?
I think it's nice to have that permanent romanticized. Like I'm thinking about it today, talking about this. I'm dreaming of myself on that cruise ship and I'm truly happy. And I know I would never be that happy. So if I went there to that place, it would destroy that dream in my head forever.
You could just go on a cruise and watch how unhappy the people running it are.
They're 18-hour days. They're like, dude, what? Yeah, you're on the right side of this bar.
Just talk to one of the cabin boys, and they're like, I haven't slept in days, and I hate, like, I can't even think about dancing with a model or a dancer right now.
But you know what I'm saying? You have that vision, like it would have been something special, and it isn't all bad. I mean, I think a lot of these guys too, yeah, they did get stressed out in this, but they did play video games for a few years of their lives. How many people can say that? How many people can
That's
say
true.
that they worked on and traveled the world and saw all these seas and oceans and beautiful things?
I talk about this as if I'm exempt from this question, but I last month put in an application to be an intern at a podcast that I very highly respect, and it would be, working for very little just so I could learn it better. So I am not exempt from this.
And they beat the shit out of you. They just abuse you and treat you like the cockroach that you are.
Right. They're like, edit this giant pile of work, and then, don't talk to us. Just send the work back to us.
You actually don't learn anything. You actually know less than than you did before.
I'm just tired at the end.
But you always see those old ones. Napoleon Hill wrote this famous book, Think and Grow Rich. Great self-help book. But his big thing is, I went to work for the richest man in the world, Carnegie, and he didn't pay me. So I had to tell my wife, I'm working for the richest man in the world for free, but I learned all his secrets. Then you learn their secrets and you go on to have wealth way beyond your dreams.
That's hopefully what we all do. Like, if you accept a dream job, what are the chances you get to actually sit in the same room as Carnegie and hear him talk about his secrets versus you're stuck at a desk crunching numbers? I want to point out, we found an article answering the question, is it better to do your dream job or, take the money by doing somebody else's work? Which one is mentally more healthy? Really what we're asking is it more healthy to have secured money doing a job you actually don't like that much? Or is it more mentally healthy to risk being poorer? Because that's effectively what these dream jobs look like. They all look like lower salary by far.
And then I'm thinking about the factory worker. And I know some people love that work. But how could you, Joe? Doing the same thing over and over like a robot.
Right.
With none of your own troubleshooting or, I mean, how much can you care about that product that...
Right. Even if you love Ford, you might be like, I am the Ford Mustang fan. I was born in one. I was conceived in the backseat of a Ford Mustang. You work in a Ford Mustang factory long enough, you will hate the part you are bolting onto that car.
Yeah, this is mindless.
Well, if you work your dream job and you don't make enough money, I am very sorry to say that according to, we have a science.org article that came from the Department of Massachusetts and Harvard, and it basically has a graph. If you Todd don't mind scrolling down to this graph, it is called the it basically shows the prevalence of depression based on income. And I hate to make so many episodes about income level, but
people are the most miserable.
Basically. So the reason I asked about if you'd seen Succession, there's a lot of shows that kind of, White Lotus did this too. There are a lot of TV shows that try to convince us that super wealthy people are just as miserable as everybody. They have just as much depression and anxiety, but it's not true. I'm sorry to say, money actually does solve some level of depression and anxiety.
Yeah, I think you and I already knew that.
I think so.
You can arrive to your problems in style. Tony Robbins quote.
Right. You can pull up in a limo and your depression can only be so high if you know what you're eating and where you're sleeping tonight.
But when you're broke and you're trying to scrape to what you're going to eat that week and if you're going to make the rent to the mortgage.
If we didn't have to pay for our housing, if they got different meals, if we had like everything paid for, a lot of us would have done it for free.
You guys paid for your own housing?
Yeah. From the last time that I heard, it was given to Disney by Coke. They built the projects. They built all of the buildings. It was all owned by Coke. And I think, you'll have to look into this, but I think it was supposed to be free housing for the college program, and Disney still had us pay for it.
Yeah. You're like, we're outraged now.
Oh, no, and that was like something that all of us were angry about.
Now, I went into the Army, and this sounds very familiar. You said two things, so they make you pay for a place that they have like dorms for you.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's like apartments, or it's like you're all in cots, or what?
So my first place that I went, and some of the, like, they're all pretty much the same on how many people you can have in one apartment. It ranges from 2 to 8.
Okay.
Everybody shares a room. Everybody.
So how much do you pay roughly? I know it depends.
I remember it was at least $1,000 every 2 weeks.
Are you kidding me?
It was either 1,000 2 weeks or it was 500.
For $10 an hour, that's tough.
Oh yeah. We had these, like, we had minuscule amount for food, for any entertainment, for like going any places. We had nothing.
You had to pay for food too?
Oh God, yes.
So they have a cafeteria?
I'm trying to remember if they provided us food. I don't think they provided us food at all. Of course, like, they had a cafeteria area and it had vending machines, but that was about it.
This is sounding a lot more cultish when you talk about you have to go to a college. I think a burger college, and then you got to go live in these dorms, and then you have all these happy people telling you what to do and how lucky you are to work there. They're paying you less than a living wage. You have to pay for your food there. It's almost like most of these people, I'm guessing just from my adulthood, is they're getting support financially from somebody at home to live their dream of living at Disneyland, Disney World. Is that right?
Oh yeah. With me, and I'm going to out myself, I was one of those that had support from home, but it was only to pay for insurance. I remember my best friend who I met at the college program, she was like, I have debt because of this. I remember some of my roommates, they were like, well, my boyfriend's back home and he's paying all the bills, all of them by himself. And so they would have fights about, well, why can't you send money? And they were just like, I have none. There's nothing I can do. I also remember that there were times when my best friend would get texts from their parents and be like, hey, do you need any help right now? Because they knew she was struggling. And yeah, it was really tough for a lot of us because we were all just kind of cooped up and we couldn't do anything. A lot of us wanted to do Universal and like get season passes for Universal and then go there on our off days when we didn't go to Disney, and we couldn't because we didn't have the money for it.
When you're talking about your friend, in your voice you were saying that she was embarrassed that things didn't turn out like it was promised or like it was sold.
Yeah, exactly. We all drank the Kool-Aid. We all thought, okay, we'll just keep working. And a lot of us knew, like, yeah, no, we still have, like 20 hours left of college credits that we still need to do, but it's okay. We'll just put it off and we'll do it whenever we get back, if we get back. And a lot of us just thought, we won't have to do that. We'll just stay here for the rest of our lives.
Were you being basically millennial taxed to work your dream? And what was the end goal? Like, what was the last position you hoped to end up in?
So I wouldn't say that I was like worked to the bone. They definitely worked us to as hard as we could and got as much as we could get done. But also they told us it doesn't matter if you can get your job done. It more matters that the guests are happy. So it wasn't physically taxing. It was emotionally taxing. Whenever we would get off work, we would all just be emotionally dead.
I'll quote the article itself so people don't think I am just, bashing on these preconceived notions. Contrary to widely held preconceptions, anxiety and depression are not diseases of affluence. Within a given location, those with the lowest incomes are typically 1.5 to 3 times more likely than the rich to experience depression or anxiety.
3 times?
Up to 3 times as likely, and that is from the lowest income tier. So if you are in the lowest bracket, meaning you are well below the poverty line, you're 3 times more likely to be depressed or anxious. So this graph is a straight line. It almost looks like it looks like a linear graph. It's just, you know, the lowest level of income has the highest amount of depression and anxiety, the highest amount of income, and it has 4 bars going second, third, fourth highest in income level. The highest level of income has the lowest amount of anxiety and depression, I am sorry to say.
I can just hear some annoying person somewhere saying, I don't need to make a lot of money. I just need to be comfortable.
Yeah, I don't need to make a lot of money. I just need to work my dream job. So if you've ever wondered, is it worth being poor if you work your dream job? It's a personal decision, but here are the facts. You're more likely to suffer anxiety. You're more likely to suffer depression and pretty much other emotional disturbances that come with not making enough money to cover your basic needs. The happiness index, the happiness plateau is currently sitting at 75,000 a year. That means about 57% of Americans don't qualify with their current jobs to reach the, quote, happiness plateau. So if you compare those two very closely, do you want a job of fulfillment or mental health and stability? If you can get both, absolutely do it. That is not a question. If you set aside the time in your life to work your dream job, do it. But don't do it expecting to hit that happiness quotient and to have the best mental health while you're making all those sacrifices.
Do you think there's opportunity if you're willing to go down there and just, if you really love what you're doing, you're really bought into the system, is it easier to excel in that pool?
I think so. I think if you take the time to plan ahead, you put up that gamble, you decide, I'm willing to lose a couple years of my life to do this job, to at least learn the skills or to have lived my dream. I think that is a worthwhile gamble. But you're also speaking to a millennial, and I am the target demographic to get into sucker to do a dream job.
That's how they get you.
That is exactly how they get you.
You walked into your own trap, right?
I did. I know the national statistics. I just quoted them, and I walked into that trap. So, Rachel's story, she talks about how much they weren't being paid as, and this, I want to point out, her story was not a long time ago. I don't know if you caught that, but it was 2018. So they were paying, we're here in like the Portland Metro, minimum wage is higher than what she quoted. She talked about $10 an hour. We balked at that. That's less than you would get for minimum wage at a gas station here. Disney, I know before I say this, I don't think Disney is hurting for money.
Oh, no.
If you look at it from the perspective of COVID, they made $9 billion in profits last year. They received a $1.5 billion tax break from Trump because of the taxation going lower for rich people, the breaks that they put in. And recently, they reached a 4-year compensation agreement with its CEO, Bob Iger, for about $423 million. And yet, they are currently sort of in a battle with their Disneyland resort workers to sort of settle up whether or not they can afford to pay them a living wage. Now, this is the shocking part to me. Between 2017 and now, so like 2017 to 2022, how much do you think their pay changed?
From what I know from shitty paying jobs, 75 cents an hour.
Okay.
I'm guessing.
They're so not the volunteers and interns, but the actual resort workers who were full-timers. They're making $15.80 an hour, and this is in like populated areas. This is in Orlando.
Yeah, this is not Puerto Rico 1970. This is
right.
Areas where things still cost much. Oh, well, cost of living is cheap in Florida. It's not that cheap.
Okay. It didn't go up. It went down.
What? So even with all this pressure, they said, you know what, you bastards, we're going to pay you less.
Exactly. Like they did not just not keep up with inflation. They lowered their rates. So it went from 1580 in 2000 to 2017. It went down to 1336. So over the course of 15, 17 years, it dropped 15%.
I can see why you could get droves of people that want to work at Disney World, Disneyland, than you can at a warehouse in Amazon. That I get.
Right.
So they just have that tidal pool of employees who have it. But you think at some point that they would just say, hey, let's all quit and get a $10 an hour raise.
It's funny you say that, but they have been in battles for unions over the past couple of years. They have been having trouble keeping their the Disney College open, especially during COVID. They had to scale that back because they weren't compensating people. According to this article, over 80% of Disneyland workers right now make less than $12 an hour. And that is in an era, this is during the post-COVID era when we're in the big quit. Everybody's walking out of their jobs right now. And Disney's like, no, it's okay. We'll show you how this is done. And they paid everybody less.
They must have some like mole insiders that make sure there's no like negative clusters at places. They must.
It's all positivity spin. Like we heard from Rachel, they are pre-selecting people who have drank the Kool-Aid. And it's like, you talk about the best example of telling somebody you'll work for free if you work your dream job. This is it. This is the absolute golden example of, we have your dream job over here. Come and get it.
So the lesson here, this is cult-like. You really need to be very aware, very eye wide open, and very willing to put your foot down and say, I'm worth more than this. My time every hour is worth more than this.
Yeah. To that point, people have started reporting what they made at Disneyland. They've started putting their foot down. Disney is currently in negotiation with unions for the position Rachel was talking about. So right this moment, it's finally shifting. It blows my mind that they started paying people less leading into this year. Like over the past 20 years, that they would slowly eke the pay down. That is crazy.
It doesn't make any sense.
I just want to read this last little bit from this article. They said, incredibly, more than 1 out of 10 Disneyland Resort employees have been homeless or not had a place of their own to sleep in the last 2 years. More than 2/3 of Disneyland Resort workers are food insecure. Only 28% of Disneyland employees report having the same schedule every week.
And that's corporate greed. I mean, let's face it. Between their movies and their parks, the absorbent fees they pay to get into the park.
Yeah.
To have people have to sleep on the streets and then shower at a gym to come into work with this huge smile on their face.
Exactly. We said already, this is a $150 billion corporation. They made $9 billion in profits last year. Their CEO, got an estimated of $423 million. They're not the mouse, the Disney, who now owns all entertainment from, Star Wars to Marvel to everything. They're not hurting for money. This is pure and simple, corporations not wanting to pay people to do their dream. Are there any dream jobs now that you would work for cheap or free in the future that you're just like, it's too good of a job?
No. I think that's actually what hit me hardest coming home. Whenever I finally did come home, is that I realized like what my dream job was. It doesn't matter how much you pay me. I am not going to want to do it because of how taxing it ended up becoming. So realizing that, I actually had about a year and a half where I was like, I don't know if I want to continue this degree, which is hospitality, which I thought would be the perfect way to get into Disney. I didn't know if I wanted to continue it. And that was, it was about 6 years of college that I was like, that's 6 years down the drain. Here I am about to graduate with that degree. But it was, it was a shock to realize that I really just did not want to work there. If I had to tell younger me any advice on going, I would say go, but don't expect anything from anybody else. You have to make it yourself.
You've been listening to The Re-Engineered You. Thank you so much for listening to the show. You mean the world to us. We have a new episode every week.
You can connect with us at www.re-engineeredyou.com. That's where you have research links, show notes, feedback, and blog articles for each of our episodes.
We're not experts in anything, but we've got an opinion on everything.